What is up, yo?
How's it going, guys? How are you today, Tracy?
I'm good, bro. How you doing?
Good. Can't complain.
This is officially episode 5 of the Uneducated podcast.
I know.
And as you guys can tell,
Elephant in the room.
Slate Diggity
It's not here.
is not here. So, yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Busy man.
Yep. He's working today on his day off.
Yeah. Do you know what he's doing today?
I have no idea.
No. We'll just pop in there and check him out here a little bit.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. I was going to stop by there anyway.
Right.
But so me and Matt are going to chill and talk it out today. So,
See where it goes.
yeah, man.
Yeah. You had said you were bumping a young Dolph.
I was,
You
yeah.
had an idea.
I was. Yeah, so man, so Dolph, like I'm not like a super fan or anything, but I do like his music.
Yeah.
And he's on our playlist at the shop.
Yeah. Fair. Yeah. I remember Slater and Travis both like being influenced by him and stuff, and I kind of dived into his background a little bit, and it is inspiring that come up of life for him and stuff. It's really interesting.
Yeah. There's like a few songs on the playlist at the shop, and it's like, so at this point we've, at least a few of us, like most of us there, have had that playlist in our hands, and like we're able to just add the stuff that we like. So it's like a combined type of, it'll go from like, there's like some Morgan Wallen songs to like Young Dolph to Maroon 5 to like whatever, man. It's just such a wide range of
We've had similar playlists in my studios as well, and it's fun.
I actually love it because I do love, I'm not a huge country fan, but other than that, it's like I'm a metalhead, but I'm also a hip hop head.
Yeah.
So I know that those are kind of opposite dynamics, but at the same time, I love going from like some brutal metal tracks to like Young Dolph,
right,
or Gucci Mane, or whatever.
I completely get it because my music interest is all over the place, from 30s blues to hip hop to, I don't get a lot into metal, but I like country music. I like everything. Punk music was a big one for me. 50s rock and roll. I grew up with my nana, so I was exposed to a lot of like older music as well.
Yeah. Yep. These days, man, I even like, I like old Maroon 5. I still jam some of their old albums.
Yeah.
I like Harry Styles.
Okay.
I like Bon Iver.
Yeah, I like his music a lot. Him live is great as well.
Really?
If you ever get a chance to see him, yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know. That playlist is all over the place.
Yeah.
But I was listening to Young Dolph the other day, and he has this line. It says, it's like, let me try and get it right. He says, "Po up, po up, po up, po up, po up, po up, po up. We was down for so long, didn't have no place but to go up."
Yeah.
Something like that. And I was literally thinking about that this last week because I related to it in a specific way, and I was like, me and Matt should talk about that, because I bet he could chime in on it too.
Yeah. So what did that bring up for you specifically?
So for me, what I was thinking was, when I got into tattooing, it was a interesting situation, and basically, like, I would probably refer to it as, if there was something in my life that was like a rock bottom moment,
right,
for my situation, then that was probably it at the exact same time I started tattooing. But I also attribute a lot of any success I've had at tattooing, I attribute it to that, because it was sort of a sink or swim moment for me.
Yeah.
And there was no choice but to succeed. Like, failure was not an option.
Yeah, I relate to that whenever I started, because it's like, okay, I'm going to get my hands tattooed as like a point of no return. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if I'm going to do it, I'm all in. And that's what we're doing. I watched you in that moment. It was very much seemed like the same thing. You're just like, yeah, I'm all in. Mm-hmm. If that's what we're doing. That's what we're doing. So. Yeah.
So my situation and the way I related to Dolph in that track was like, I was working a job. I was working in a Cummins factory, which good company overall, but it's like we were slaves.
Right.
You know what I mean?
7 days a week.
And 6-7 days a week sometimes.
Months on end. Yeah.
and like even longer days, like they would change 8-hour shifts to 10-hour shifts, and you know what I mean. So
Right.
you're just working mandatory like 60 hours a week on average.
American dream.
Yeah. And so, and I was doing assembly, and I worked there for about 8.5 years. And before that, I worked in a different factory actually, for about 1.5 years. That was my first full-time job, at Hoosier Tool and Die. But I hated that job.
Right.
I was doing multiple creative things, trying to get out of it. I was really into music production and beat making and running a home studio. And then I transitioned to videography.
Yep.
Bought a bunch of gear, was taking on jobs and stuff, but it's really hard to get enough work to really sustain. You know what I mean? Like you
Right.
have to build it up. So I wasn't to that point yet. And videography led me to tattooing, if some people don't know. And I actually started doing videos for Matt's studio.
I actually just watched some of those videos the other day. I think I'm actually gonna upload them on YouTube, so I'll tag your stuff in it. Just to kind of do some throwback videos from like the early stuff as well. So
Yeah.
we'll throw those up.
Cool. But yeah, and so that was how I got into tattooing, because I was hanging out at your studio a lot, and I was like, hey, do you have any room for another apprentice? And then ended up not apprenticing for you because you
Right.
already had two.
Right.
But you were like, hey, but I do know someone who might have room. Go talk to him. You
Yeah.
sent me over to Greg. That worked out.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and I saw that you were hungry, and I saw that you were hungry enough to where you were going to do it no matter what. You know what I mean? You were going to find your way in the industry, and I respect that. That's the kind of people that the tattoo industry needs. The people that love it, that want to do it. How many people I get asked at least 3 to 4 times a month probably about apprenticeships if I have and I don't have any interest in doing that again. But how many people ask me that, and then I give them that same kind of like thing I did you, do 30 drawings at the end of the day, then bring them to me, and I want, you know what I mean, I just want to see them.
I think you said, because this is when you were still thinking about taking me on.
Yeah.
And you said 60 drawings in 30 days. So I had to do 2 a day.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was working 60 hours a week at
Yeah.
the time. I would come home like, I don't know, 6 o'clock maybe
Right.
from work. Have to draw multiple little designs,
yeah.
and then basically go to bed not long after.
Right. And that's more just like simulate. If you really want to get into tattooing, you're going to do that once you start tattooing too, you know, sometimes. So that's, I'm sure you see it now, like why that would be the recommendation of starting point. But also seeing that first one to your, I guess, 60th one, I remember looking at it and being like, yeah, there's a huge progression already. And you deserve to tattoo. Even I feel like that's, if we were talking about like rock bottoms, that's kind of the point where mine was starting, and being transparent and vulnerable in the same time. Part of that was part of the reason why I didn't bring you on in tattooing, and was like, okay, well, we met at the skate park. I remember like telling you that, and like, but here is this other option to get into it. And that was actually a hard conversation. I remember like wanting to apprentice you and like bring you on, and be like, I can't do it. Like,
Yeah, fair enough. I remember that.
yeah.
But yeah, it was interesting because and I will circle back around to the story.
Right.
But I don't know if it was before or after I had talked to you. Maybe before. It was probably right before, because I was just so curious. I was so curious. I bought an Amazon little coil machine.
Yep.
With, the kit, the inks, and the little the needle bars, and what else? It came with some practice skin too, I think.
Yeah.
And
got it
like
in the mail.
I just had to try it. You know what I
Right.
mean? So what I did, I bought that kit, and I did one outline of a rose
Yep.
on practice skin, and that was the only thing I had done. Next thing, I was talking to you about it, and you said, quit right now.
Yeah.
Just put it down. Don't do it anymore, because you're going to have an easier time like finding an apprenticeship, or even if I were to work under you.
Right.
You said nobody wants to correct bad habits that you get yourself into, and so unlearning someone can actually take longer than just starting them from scratch, and they
And it
start
might,
learning the right way.
for some people, might not even be possible to unlearn some of those natural things, like skateboarding, like pushing Mongo. A lot of people, like, they just start doing it. They can't unlearn how to do it because it becomes so natural.
It's so ingrained.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, so that was so I was like, okay, like I put it down, I understood, and luckily got an opportunity after that. But yeah, unfortunately, I did break down and I did the thing. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like I bought the Amazon machine and started trying to tattoo on practice skin.
I think for some of it kind of comes in our conversation before we started, like that human like condition of like we do things as humans we don't know why, and I feel like tattooing is one of those things. A lot of people, we don't know why we're attracted to making marks in the skin on other people, let alone why we do it in general. But yeah, you got the bug, had to do it.
Yeah, yeah, it definitely was in my head at the time. I was I'm I'm gonna do this. If I can't find an apprenticeship, like I'm just gonna do this.
Right.
You know what I mean? And unfortunately, even a lot of the world, like I'd say any of the origin stories I hear from people, probably 50%. It's half of even the world renowned tattooers out there. They were like, yeah, my buddy just had a machine at his house and let me try it one day, and so me and him both just started tattooing out of the house, and you know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
I mean, I started the same way. You know what I mean? Dabbling in it. I mean, I did my first marks on someone's skin at 14 with a sewing needle.
yeah.
Like, just because I guess human condition. I don't know why.
Yeah,
like,
I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is interesting. Like that's exactly what any professional tattooer preaches against of how to start tattooing.
Yeah.
But at least half of them started that way.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that, like it's talked in that negative
Connotation.
mainly because of there's so much more power in having a mentor and a teacher to guide you into this that's went through it. That's, messed up tattoos that, or we all learn so much over time. It's so much easier to learn from someone. Like I feel like I've had so many mentors that have helped me along the way, and I wouldn't be where I'm at without knowledge from each individual one of those.
Yeah, you gain something from this person and do that from 10 different people, along with what you just learn on your own from trial and error, and then that's your bag, your bag of tricks.
Like I learned it a lot from my boxing trainer, Wes Ramey. Basically, like he would say, like you might take this combination from me and this one from him, and then you're gonna mix them together and make your own combination of it. And then my mentor in tattooing would always he kind of said a similar version of like, I'm gonna give you this tool, put it in your toolbox. If you ever use it, cool. If not, cool. Like, but you're gonna keep building your toolbox over time. And
that's a cool analogy, actually.
Yeah.
Just with boxing, like you're going to get a combination from this guy, and then you're going to make your own combinations.
Yeah. And that's, I feel like, very similar to tattooing. Like I mean, I think you could see it, especially in like the mixed style stuff. I'm like pulling from different areas in tattooing because I've been influenced by so many different people.
But so back to how I got into tattooing. So my apprenticeship, it started, the things that were in motion was I was in the middle of a divorce.
Right.
So I was no longer living in my house. I was staying in my brother's basement. Okay. And I don't have to explain to anyone how hard a situation like that is. You know what I mean?
Not fun.
Yeah, not fun.
Not fun.
Lots going on. And you have to just rebuild your life.
Yeah.
After that. So that was where I was at. And I couldn't apprentice and work my full-time job because it was too many hours and just way too big of an obligation.
Right.
And so I needed to, and if I was going to dive all in, like I said, I had to give it my all and really be at the studio. So I quit my job. Okay. So I no longer had my long-time stable job with insurance and all this. Like I was there almost 9 years. I was staying in my brother's basement. I did luckily get to work part-time a couple days a week with my friend Ryan Furr, who runs Ryan Furr Creative. They're a videography company in town. So that was a little bit of money to kind of get me by, because you don't start out making money in tattooing. You kind of have to take that step back before you can take steps forward.
Right.
And so I don't know. It was a hard time. And you like since you don't start out making money, and I no longer had a job, I was like, okay, first of all, I'm not going back to working in a factory. Like if I got this opportunity, which not a lot of people get, it can be hard to find an actual apprenticeship
Right.
tattooing.
Yeah.
Then I can't squander the opportunity. So for me, it was a sink or swim moment. And it was also like I kind of felt like I was at rock bottom because of everything going on in life. So I didn't have a choice but to succeed, and I was going to do whatever it took
Right.
to make it happen.
It
So
was very obvious for sure.
so I just put my head down and worked. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like,
Yeah. That was a huge thing. Even when I started like tattooing, just took a seminar, Yogi Berra's seminar, and he was just like, best advice to an apprenticeship is just put your head down, and verbatim for him is shut the fuck up.
yeah.
Like that's the best thing you can do,
Mm-hmm.
because yeah, being at the bottom, you have to work your way up to where you eventually get. But
Yeah. But so that's what I meant by what Dolph said.
yeah,
He said, like, I was, we were down for so long that we didn't have any place but to go up.
right, yeah,
You know, and so that's how I felt being at a job that I hated for so long, sucking the life out of me. Like, you know, and that'll cause depression and stuff if you're just at
yeah,
a situation or at a point in life to where like you're just not really happy with your day to day, you're not being fulfilled and stuff like
yep,
that. And I think people deal with that all over the place in
for sure,
different
yeah,
regards, you know.
yeah,
But yeah, something like that where you're already just not at your favorite place in life, and then you throw in something like a divorce on top of it, and then next thing you know, you're no longer living in the house that you own. You're living in someone's basement, and it's
right,
like, all right, well, I'm at ground floor right now, and I'm starting a new career.
yep,
Time to grind,
yeah,
and like there's nowhere to go down from here really unless I
right,
get hooked on drugs, so I'm just
yeah,
going to put my
yeah.
head down and start grinding and like
Put in the work,
put in the
and
work
yeah,
and go up, you know what I mean?
yeah, I can relate, especially like closing good vibrations, and then like I wouldn't say that was like the wasn't really like, I mean, definitely going through divorce kind of, I had I kind of, with that situation, I had a chance to rebuild, redefine, kind of start over in the direction that I wanted to go with
Mm-hmm.
things. I felt like so much of my life had been kind of altered by the situations that I was in.
Sure.
And
Yeah, I mean, you make a lot of decisions. You make every decision based on who's your partner, who are you
right.
supporting,
Yeah.
your family, what's going on. So
Yeah. So then it was like I had the opportunity in that moment to redefine in my true self instead, and like do something that was more true to who I was, because I felt like I hadn't been true to who I was for so long, I guess. But yeah, being in those positions will definitely force you into elevating yourself,
mm-hmm.
because out of like self-respect for yourself.
Yeah, it's interesting now that you mention that. Sometimes you're forced to change or to elevate.
Yeah,
You know, like if you're, it's like if there's even things that you know you should be doing or focusing on more, but you choose not to because of time or because of, your energy being pulled different ways in life.
yeah,
It's like sometimes that decision will just be made for you.
right,
And if you can recognize that opportunity and actually run with it, then you
yeah,
can kind of,
yeah, for sure. And that's all like kind of the mentality that I've had through life is like, I'm not going back there.
mhm.
No matter what.
I'm not going back to that factory, bro.
Yeah, right. I remember times during my apprenticeship, and I have family that would have helped me more, you know what I mean? But I was stubborn and I was young. I 19 when I got into tattooing, so it was like I didn't want the help. I wanted to do it myself. There was times where I heated my apartment in Quail Run with the stove. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, I'm not going back there. I'm not going back to the dollar store or on a budget, like doing that stuff again. Like,
Mhm.
I remember for a while, we'd just eat beans, hot dogs, ramen. Like, I
Yeah.
remember making ramen or making spaghetti with ramen noodles. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Or not doing that again.
Like
Not,
like almost college life
yeah,
type
but it
of
was apprenticeship. You know what I mean? And
broke apprenticeship life.
yeah, I'm thankful for it. I'm thankful that I went through that. I respect and love tattooing so much more because of those moments. Um, but I'm not going back there. Not doing
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Well, it's those things that actually kind of shape you.
Yeah, for sure. Yep. Those like sitting there late at night at the drawing table with the mindset that I'm doing this because it's not always fun being up till 2, 3 in the morning, knowing you got to be up to go do the tattoos that you have been drawing. Or I hope at that point I was hoping they were going to show up at that point. But the whole time I had that mentality that this is what's going to get me out of this situation.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. So I'm sure you went through a hard time because, well, you went through a divorce, but also the shop, and you had a lot of people under you at that point.
Yeah.
Everyone at that same time kind of took the opportunities to like, let's go. I'm going to go this way over here and work with these people and whatnot. So everyone kind of disbanded a little bit, which is a normal, natural thing. Like people take,
for sure.
You had multiple apprentices at that shop, and people eventually take other opportunities, and like no harm, no foul.
Yeah,
you know?
and there was even a lot of conversations of like, how do some of us keep working together? Me and one of the other artists, it was an apprentice of mine. We we ran into the same issues that you and Slater ran into. We went and looked around at other buildings. Everything was, the one that we were sold on, that if we were going to do it, it basically had to be that building, and it didn't work out. So then we all kind of went different ways, and but yeah.
Yeah. So you had that point too where, and this is why I thought this would be a good topic, because you had gone through that point too where like it might have seemed at the time like a low point in life, or just, extra stressful for sure.
Oh, it was super stressful for sure.
And then that on top of like, now you're like, well, this studio is not going to work anymore. And so people go work other places, and you're like, I'm going to rebuild. And I don't know, man, I feel like that everyone goes through that point sometime in life where they're like, from this point, I need to rebuild, because what was working is no longer working, or it just never was working.
Right.
You know?
For sure.
So that looks different for everyone.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, and then in that time, it was definitely, it was more, I would definitely say building on top of the foundation that I already started. Like I had an idea of how I wanted my studio to run here in Columbus, but it wasn't fulfilling me. Like it wasn't, I had the idea of a collective studio, and in that time it just felt like it wasn't really a collective. It was, and it was a lot. When me forcing it to try to run and operate as a collective was just draining me. And along with my like the personal stuff, because I was going through the divorce the whole time that I was closing and opening a new studio, trying to like start everything over. But yeah, it was a wild time for sure.
Yeah, it's a lot, because in the mix of all of that is money.
Yeah,
money situations, which is like, that can make everything a lot more stressful. It takes money to open a studio, takes money to go through a divorce.
Yes, it does. I was going to say, if anyone's been through divorce, they know it is not free. So, but yeah, I think there's definitely you have to go through those moments though in time to elevate. Like I saw the video of a guy, and it's like he's going upstairs, and he like takes a step up, falls off onto a trampoline, but he bounces back up from that trampoline at a higher level, and he'd fall back, and he'd every single time.
I've seen that.
Yeah.
Dude. So he's like an act or whatever. He's like a trampoline pro or something. I don't know.
Yeah, but it was like had that like story that like once you fall down, you get back up to go higher every time. Sometimes you have to have those setbacks in life. Unfortunately, for sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Maybe they're not even setbacks.
Right. Yeah. Just a natural like ebb and flow, like this, like the stock market kind of.
Yeah.
Like you have to have that setback.
Yeah. Because I mean, like, if you talk about the concept of growth, like growth never happens without toil or struggle.
Right. No, not at all. Yeah. Yeah, I agree for sure. I don't really have much to say on that, really. Yeah, because it's so true, and it just speaks for itself that like you have to have those like unfortunate war and famine, all that stuff has to go on. So you know that you shouldn't do that.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? You have to have those those situations.
There's certainly the only thing I can say about it. There's certainly setbacks or struggles that I hope I never have to deal with again.
Yeah, for sure. And try like the hardest to not put yourself in those situations.
Mm-hmm.
But I've learned, and I think that's the biggest thing is just learning from those situations that you put yourself in, because ultimately we put ourselves in each one of those situations by the
Mm-hmm.
choices that we make.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
Yeah, life's wild.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Man, when I walked in, you started talking about, so we got on the subject of psychology and
Yeah.
stuff right away.
Right.
And now that you mention, now I want to talk about that
Right,
because
yeah.
now that you mention, like, a lot of times we do that stuff to ourselves because of our own
Yeah.
behaviors and whatnot.
Yep. And we don't even know why.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there's certain human condition aspects of like, and so I mentioned when you mentioned the human condition,
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, I think about that a lot on a spiritual aspect.
Right.
And you may or may not, but like there's also just a human psychological aspect
Right.
to it.
Yeah, for sure. And a lot of time that's me. I would say I feel like you would understand the like dichotomy of like religious and spiritual, like that. And I would say I'm still spiritual in some aspects, for sure. But yeah, stuff like that really interests me. It's like, why would we think? Why do we say? Why do we do the things that we do that we don't even know why?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we kind of dove deep into the like right off the bat this morning.
Well, yeah. And so you mentioned, so my brother
Yeah.
having a podcast. So his podcast is Church with Chris. If you guys are interested, check that out on YouTube. But so he interviewed some counselors.
Yeah.
And you said, yeah, I had caught a couple of clips of one of those.
Yeah.
And it was Scott Hunley and Matthias Barker,
Yeah.
which Matthias has blown up.
Has he?
The other day, he was on a call with Andrew Huberman.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
Yeah, he's got I think he's got over 1 million followers on social platforms like
Yeah.
TikTok and this and that. I don't know.
Yeah.
But anyway, so they were both on that podcast. But it's interesting thinking about like what they do. They're Christian counselors. They have a perspective of like, they're viewing life from this certain lens. But also that podcast, my brother was asking them questions about how do you balance that with the actual like psychological needs, because you can't approach everyone this way and just be like, well, you just need more of this and you just need more of this, like having to do with the belief side of it. But it's also like people have actual psychological issues. Sometimes they have, brain chemical imbalances, which actually
Yeah.
create conditions, and that's why they deal with stuff. And so it's like, there's like physical aspects of this that need addressed too. So how do you guys balance that and take
Yeah.
care of both as like a wholesome counseling versus just coming from like one direct specific side?
Yeah, because of
And-
all, like people's traumas or life
Yeah,
experience.
exactly.
And,
And so that stuff needs it addressed,
Yeah.
and it's interesting to think about. And then so me and you started talking about why people do the things that they do, and just like humans always have certain reactions or get themselves into situations. And so it's like the human condition is fascinating because we don't necessarily always need to be taught to have a certain behavior.
Right.
Sometimes we're just born with a certain behavior.
Right. Yeah.
And that's fascinating because like when I was 2 years old or 3 years old, whenever I was cognitive, and then I lied to my mom for the first time when she said, "Did you take that cookie or whatever?" And
You said no.
And I said nope because I didn't want to get in trouble and I was afraid of the consequence. So it's like nobody.
Like self-preservation, maybe.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Yeah.
And just like ingrained in us to like a survival mechanism, kind of.
Yeah, like no one
Taught
me how to do that at that age when I just did it for the first time. And there's other things you can throw in there too, like if it's selfishness and as a toddler you take a toy for the first time, you just walk up to a kid and take the toy.
Right.
It's like there's at a certain point you see that done, but there is also a phase to where you haven't seen that done yet and you just
Right.
do it because you want that thing.
Yeah, for sure.
and
Even
you-
like in like a positive light, like you don't even we're not taught what's funny. Like we don't know, you know what I mean? Like at all. So like when you're
Yeah.
a kid and you're just look at something, you just start laughing for no reason. Like we're not taught that you're supposed to find something funny in life. But
And everyone finds different things funny.
right,
So
yeah,
sense of humor is
definitely one of those conditions.
yeah. Yeah, dude, it's fascinating, man. The human consciousness and just like behaviors, and I think it'd be really interesting to study psychology.
I do too. Yeah, like there's just some things that just I've always interested me versus like with like even looking at tattooing or just natural things we do, like sitting by the fire. We don't know why we like doing those things as humans, but we do. So I always find stuff like that interesting. Why? And I will probably never really know the true why, I guess. But
Yeah, I definitely like sitting in front of a fire.
yeah, and that
I'll just be dead silent in front of a fire, like by myself, don't need anybody, and I'll be cool.
right, yeah, I know, and I feel like the majority of people will just sit and chill. But I don't know anyone who's ever said, "No, I'm not down. I don't want to sit by the fire."
Yeah.
Like ever. Like I hate campfires. I don't think I've ever heard it. So
Yeah, it's almost like there's something so
like
peaceful
therapeutic.
and therapeutic about it, because it's like it's one of those earliest original like ways of life
Yeah,
on
for sure.
on planet Earth, like to survive, to cook food,
Yep.
you know, to stay warm in the cold, like all of those things. It's one of those just basic survival things. So it's like almost more ingrained in humanity than like anything else.
Yeah, and it's
that
one of the elements that you can actually like physically see, touch, smell, feel.
and even create
Yeah,
from
right.
from nothing.
Yeah. Yep. We should have more fires for sure.
Oh, dude.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I did have one the other night.
Did you?
Yeah. Yeah, I think on me and Liz's anniversary
Yeah, I
night,
saw your
I lit one
post.
up.
Yeah. Congrats, by the way.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like to sit by the fire and you know, chill, have a drink or two,
Right.
smoke a pipe.
Yep. Yep. Do the things you enjoy doing.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, good stuff. But the weather's getting good now.
I know. These are starting to change.
I think even today the low's 40 something,
Oh,
and then
really? I
the
didn't
high
realize
is
that.
the high is 69. So the high is officially out of the 70s. That starts to get into that like perfect fall weather
Prime.
here in maybe even a week or two.
Yep.
Because even last year by Halloween, and we're in Indiana, by the way, but last year Halloween, it was so freezing balls outside. Like we were trick or treating, and we had to turn around and go home because the kids were complaining too much. They were just like
Yeah.
ice cold,
Yeah, it's already like
and that's only 3 weeks away. So
Yeah.
at any moment in Indiana, it can drop like 50 degrees, literally within two days.
right.
It's insane.
And the weather in general right now is just absolutely crazy
Yeah.
all over the world right now. So it's hard telling what Indiana's going to do in the next 5 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah, man, it's not looking good for Florida again.
I know.
That new hurricane's on the way, supposed to hit like maybe Wednesday.
Yeah, it's a Cat 3, thought I saw.
I think they're saying it's going to be 4
Really?
by the time it's on projection to be a category 4. And I think even stronger than the last one as
Really?
far as like the wind,
Yeah.
the wind speed and all that.
So sad. And it looks like it's going to go like straight through like every big city for the most part. Yeah, it's super sad.
Yeah, rather than going up into the other states, like
Just going straight through it.
on the bend, it's actually going like straight. It's on the Gulf side,
Yeah.
but it's going straight at Florida,
Yeah.
like the coast of Florida. And that's right where, so Liz's mom lives, Indian Shores.
Okay.
It's right by like Clearwater,
Okay.
which already got hit like decently,
Yeah.
on the last one. But this one is going to, like the middle eye of the storm is just going to hit like where she's at this time.
Okay. So that'd be like close. Is that, I think like St. Petersburg?
Yeah, St.
area?
Pete's.
Okay.
Yeah, that's where we fly into, and
Okay.
it's like 30 minutes from her
Okay. Gotcha.
condo, I think.
Yeah.
But she's actually in town this week visiting us, staying with us. And so we're like, just stay here a little longer if you have
Right.
to. Like, no need to. What are you going back to?
Yeah.
She doesn't have to get back for anything. So
Right. Yeah. I put up this or late last night that if any tattooers listening to this, you guys need a place to come tattoo, stay. We'll make sure you're taken care of for sure.
Yep. We in a basement right now.
Yep. We will.
You can
do
sleep.
something else.
You can sleep here.
Yeah.
This isn't my house I'm inviting you to, which is funny.
No, it is an open invitation because I couldn't imagine being in that situation.
Yeah.
Just even like watching what we can see on the internet, is like sit there kind of baffled, like dumbfounded, I can't wrap my head around being in that situation.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, hit us up if you guys need somewhere to go and tattoo.
Yeah. And I guess, well, after this podcast won't be out
For a minute. Yeah.
until, a week later or so.
Yeah.
But there might be even more.
I know.
So
Hopefully not, for sure. That's a part of the human just experience, I guess. You never know what's going to happen.
yeah. I mean, at this point, I'm like, why would anyone in their right mind move to Florida?
Yeah.
Which, it's a good thought, but at the same time, like literally every single year, there's never a year that doesn't have hurricanes.
Right.
Like it's every single year, and they just wait for them to come through and hope that like their whatever piece of land doesn't get destroyed.
Yep.
And that would just be a hard life. Like buying property there at least would be. At least Liz's mom at this point, she's like, I don't want to own anything there, so I'm just going to keep renting my condo. It's not my problem if it gets damaged. She's also 4 floors up, so she didn't get flooded. Her parking lot was flooded last week.
Okay.
But like nothing's happening up high where she's at.
Right. I kind of find it beautiful though, the people that like buy, because there's a bunch of people in Florida that like they're not leaving. You know what I mean? No matter what, they bought that house on that land and they're gonna ride it out. And I don't know, I find it like just that pride kind of goes into like one of those things we're not taught to be, you know what I mean, I'm gonna keep what's mine and I'm gonna stay here with it, and if I go with it I go. Like I just find that so surreal, I guess. But very like interesting human like thought process. So I'm just gonna stay here and see what happens and ride it out.
Kind of gangster.
Right. Yeah. Very young Dolph.
Yeah. But yeah, man, prayers and thoughts to those people in Florida, bro. They're going
definitely
through it right now.
Yeah. Not even got a chance to recover yet, for sure. And then I know a lot of friends out there tattoo. A lot of people I've met over the years that don't tattoo. People that's moved away and moved there. So, yeah. Godspeed. Make it through it, guys. For sure.
Yep. I think North Carolina's still in really bad shape.
Dude, I've been slowly, like, I've honestly tried to, like, stop watching it.
There's so much conspiracy happening about that. And you don't know what to believe, dude. But at the same time, there's some stuff that, like, it's hard to look the other way, too.
Yeah, some of it definitely it's very, like, unsettling because, like, people, like, I saw a video this morning of a helicopter flying into an area that had all the supplies in the parking lot and just I forget what they called it, basically just spin the propellers and just like scatter the supplies out and take off. And it was just like I guess that's happening all over North Carolina. It's super sad, and even if this, like, I hope a lot of it's not true. If it is, that's so scary. Like that some of that stuff's happening. I couldn't imagine the families, like displaced families and stuff they're going through, especially with all the misinformation. They're saying they're not going to pick up bodies or anything now. They're just going to start bulldozing areas and just like, but it's like, I don't know what's true.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, same with like, I think the probably biggest thing that I've seen about it all that is very unsettling and just does not give you hope for our country, honestly, is if it's true, FEMA was announcing that they don't have the funds for if another hurricane hits.
Right.
And it's like...
Yeah, I saw like their budget, and it was what seemed like an astronomical budget to not be able to afford to help, but I don't know.
Yeah, and I don't know, what all goes on into it, but everyone is clearly in an uproar because, like there's a lot of help not being done to North Carolina because even if FEMA currently has the budget and they were just talking about a future situation, like, apparently there's a lot of things that aren't getting done that should, and the way that they're operating is very odd.
Yeah.
They're not letting people who want to help and bringing supplies, they're not letting them in certain areas to bring supplies. And but that being aside, like the thing that people are really mad about is the fact that they're saying we don't have the budget to help anymore if another hurricane hits, which there's one on the way right now.
Right.
And yet, how much money did we send to this country last month and this country last month for? And I'm not saying, me not knowing everything, I'm not saying that we shouldn't help countries if they're our allies or whatever.
But we should definitely be helping ours.
But first and foremost, we should be helping ours. And if there's like natural disaster recovery that can't be funded in our own country and a whole freaking area or state without power, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Then that's a serious issue, and like that's what's going to cause a dang civil war at some point if people aren't careful.
It seems like there's already a bunch of like unrest in those areas right now because of the lack of help. And I do know people are, I know someone that was actually stuck in North Carolina.
What was his name again?
Dustin.
Okay.
Dustin Fields. He's a great person, amazing dad, mechanic. He's great at what he does.
Slater basically put it like he was stuck on top of a mountain.
Yeah.
Because like he couldn't go down because it was flooded or something.
Yeah,
so.
I was actually thinking about it yesterday because he's someone I hold very dear to me, and like he supported me through those rock bottoms of like watching me during my apprenticeship and watched my growth through the years and just stood by me and supported me through it all, and has worked on my vehicles, made sure I can get to work and keep tattooing and stuff like that. And just thinking about like, it's wild. By chance, he booked probably not many of the ones that are still there, booked an Airbnb on the worst thing that happened to him and his family was they got blocked in. They were stuck on there for 4 days, and a tree fell down on his truck and they were blocked in.
Holy crap.
And then they had to take, from what I understand, take like every back road that they could really try to find on the way back because all the main roads were closed and stuff, which is very surreal. I couldn't imagine being in that situation, but yeah, he was saying that because of that, he was inspired to want to try to gather supplies and help. And the governor of that town, I guess, said no. Like, unless you have some type of documentation saying that you can help. But I did tattoo someone yesterday from Chattanooga that her husband and her own a barbecue joint and food truck, and he is able to go to some area and help. So I think there's just certain areas, and it's probably safety. And then you don't know with the misinformation if that could be the whole story across the board. That's just a safety thing, and they don't want extra help. But I don't know. There's so much information out there right now.
Yeah. Yeah. One thing I heard, so with all the power being out in those big areas, the cellular service also was out because of the towers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
In those local areas. Now we had the nationwide kind of
one day
outage, but apparently the whole time those people without power in those areas, like the whole cities were flooded. Since cell towers were flooded too, apparently there was you couldn't get service, like phone service. So people were trapped. Maybe no food or water, no cell reception. And so now obviously they're finding lots of dead bodies when the water recedes.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing was Starlink, Elon Musk's company Starlink, came in clutch during that time because even the local authorities, like the policemen and stuff, to communicate, they were apparently using Starlink.
Really,
in those areas, and that was the way that they could get cell reception because it's not running off towers; it's running straight from a satellite.
Right. Yeah, I think Starlink's wild. I think it's super cool. A lot of people in Brown County actually use Starlink and stuff. I've actually looked into it. It's pretty affordable, really. Like, I'm probably gonna end up getting it for my studio because I've just had terrible luck with internet. We were talking about that too.
Yeah, we have too lately, actually. But yeah, so. I don't know. I kind of want to invest in Starlink.
Yeah,
because
for sure.
especially when it shows its colors in a natural disaster like that, and that's how people are able to do it. It's like, okay, this is the real deal.
Yep.
It's
This is beneficial. This is
it's gonna
going to
be
help.
it's gonna be implemented more and more now that it has like
Shown
shown its
course of
power, I
things.
guess.
Yeah. That's cool that there's a hopeful part of it that this could actually be beneficial. I don't know how much more other than communication, but I'm sure Elon has
Mhm.
ideas with it for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw some other crazy stuff too, though. With the North Carolina, like the mining of lithium being a whole conspiracy of that's why some of this is going the way it is, and certain investors buying stock in a mass amount of stock in a company
Mhm.
that mines in that area, like literally, like while all of it's happening.
Yeah, apparently it's super sketchy, and well, and that even went into like the government's not letting people in certain areas or whatever,
Right.
and the conspiracies happening all over TikTok and stuff are like that's why, because there's like they're taking advantage of these places being cleared out, and they're doing like mining operations and stuff, and so who really freaking knows what's true?
Yeah, it's so
But
wild.
yeah, and at this point, man, the internet's just worse than ever about running with stuff. Like
Yeah,
you have whole TikTok channels built off of that.
yeah. I mean, it's just like the newspaper stand, like the Daily Mail, whatever. But now it's like that's TikTok and all these platforms. I've got to the point where it's like I don't even like getting on the internet because I don't, unless I'm getting on there intentionally, which I'm honestly using YouTube because I can be very specific about what I want to watch
Mm-hmm.
and what I want to consume. But other than that, every other social media platform, it's like I can't even get on my social medias and look at tattoos and look at my friends' stuff because it's so flooded with a
Stuff that's just advertising to you, like even on your Instagram feed,
yeah,
like so many channels or so many pages or channels that I don't follow at all
yep,
is just on my actual feed as like the
yeah,
advertising, and it could actually be people's posts. And if it's not just companies,
mm-hmm.
it's actual people's posts. And if they pay for advertisement,
It's
then
gonna pop up.
it will pop up on people's feed that you're not
Yeah,
friends with. So it's definitely
yeah.
it's
Where
pretty annoying.
yeah, and the annoying part to me is like the fear mongering part of it. Like really like just not to keep repeating the fear, like or the fear and the misinformation of everything. It's just
Hmm.
so wild.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I firmly believe what in the midst of something that probably is an emergency situation, whatever it may be,
Yeah.
I think what will actually collapse a country is probably the fear mongering or
I think
like
so.
just the panic, the
Yeah.
widespread panic.
Yeah, like that mob mentality of
Hmm.
just you follow what everyone else around you's doing.
If the whole country rush the grocery stores,
Yeah.
and I mean,
What's happening again right now?
yeah, because of the whole strike.
Well, no, not even that. So, because of the mass amount of paper products that come out of North Carolina,
Hmm.
people are starting to stock and hoard toilet paper and paper products again. So, but I don't know. It's so wild, and I don't know where that. I was actually informed by someone that works in some of the stores in Nashville,
Hmm.
and I guess that's been a common thing in those areas. But
Yeah,
yeah,
but I think just the reaction or overreaction sometimes of a mass group of people, if there's hysteria going on,
yeah,
I think that could easily be what leads to civil war in a certain
I think so.
case. If even if something like COVID happened again, or even, I mean, we were not far from a dang civil war a couple months ago when
Right.
Texas was literally in a standoff with the U.S. government,
Yeah.
saying like, no, we have the right as a state to defend our borders, and like we're not letting this happen.
Right.
And the government wasn't having it, and at that point it was pretty bad there for a few weeks as far as like what potentially could happen if it spiraled out of control. And there's still a whole demographic of people, especially down in the South, that like the South will rise again mentality
Yep.
could easily happen. you
Yeah,
know?
like I don't think we could have the shutdowns that we had this like during COVID. I don't think that would be able to happen again.
We shall see.
Yeah.
You would think that because hopefully enough people caught on
Yeah.
to some things that later actually came out that like this was false information.
Right.
But it still is difficult because when they start threatening, if a lot of people say that was a test run, if we want to keep it on the conspiracy route,
Right.
a test run for like something that is planned in the future. And it's like if they start taking away people's
Rights.
legit rights and stuff like that, then even easier they will be able to control mass amounts of people because of fear
Yeah,
and stuff
for
like
sure.
that.
I mean, I think the shutdowns were a drastic proof of the fear and how it kept everyone inside. You know what I mean? We saw, God, I anytime I'd go outside, you wouldn't see a single car, and that felt like months. I mean, it actually was months, unless you were an essential worker. But
Yeah. Like, and this is the first thought popping into my head. Think about this. If let's say you had to get a shot or a vaccine, this is just an example of a lot of things that they could force you to do.
right,
If you had to get a vaccine of some sort, and they threatened to take away your housing check or your food stamps or anything like that. Like
Yeah.
let's say you were on Section 8 and there's a whole lot of people
in order to
throughout
keep
the country.
your position in life.
Yep, they would say this is now required for Section 8 housing to get any government assistance for your rent or for your food stamps or anything else like that, or for medical care. Social Security, medical
whatever.
care. If they just threatened to take that stuff away if you didn't do this thing, which could very easily be done, then how many people immediately would do it because they would be on the street otherwise?
Yeah.
So when you start thinking about it like that, it's like I'm kind of just waiting on stuff like that to happen in the future because more and more it seems like, government wants control.
Yeah, for sure. There's a lot of interesting stuff going on in the government too. I saw they're working on like adding a new amendment that if there was a mass fatality in the White House of like, I think it said 100. Like if 100 seats were open at any given time, they were trying to change the process of their filling those seats basically.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's really interesting that would randomly be a thought. Like, and then we have all this crazy stuff going on in the midst of it all. And I'm not trying to create any new conspiracies or anything, but like,
right.
makes
Honestly,
you think.
yeah, it definitely makes you think. At this point, I think no one is surprised to, no one's surprised that like right before the election, like a month before, there's all this crazy stuff happening.
Right.
Now that goes really, really far in conspiracies. People are saying the hurricane was like manufactured by the government.
Right.
I'm not quite gonna go there. I'm not gonna say it's not possible, but I'm not just gonna assume.
Seems very far-fetched to
Yes.
me, but
so much other stuff right now is happening all at
all
one
at
time.
once, you got the Diddy stuff, and you've got just not. There's just so much stuff going on.
The port strike,
Yeah.
freaking all that North Carolina stuff happening, and there is other stuff in our country going on, right?
Yeah. The amount of stuff that we don't know is going on, though,
Yeah.
is the mind-blowing part. Like, because I know that's a huge conspiracy theory. It's all a distraction to something else, and there's little stuff that's trickles into bigger things. So, yeah, I don't know. The port strike was called like they have some type of resolve until January.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wild.
Yeah. Could have been bad.
Yeah, for sure. And it sounds like it's, from what I read, it's not a full resolve from what I've gathered, but I don't know. I didn't read too much into it. But
yeah. But yeah, man, it's crazy times we live in.
Yep.
Crazy times.
I'm here for it, though.
Here for it.
Yep. Keep learning about people. Keep doing what we're doing. Keep having fun. Enjoying life. My neck hurts today.
Neck hurts?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, shoot, man. We can wrap this one up, bro.
Yeah. Sounds good to me.
It's good chatting with you
Yeah.
without Slater.
Right. We miss you.
Miss you, big teddy bear. He's working so hard.
I know.
He works hard.
Yeah, he does.
He makes
for
fun.
Sure.
He makes fun of me for like
not working hard.
Well, as hard as him.
Right. Yeah.
Like not working as many days. I don't know. There's some type of banter.
Right.
In our
Yeah.
studio back and forth of like.
Yeah. No. Yeah. For sure. Studio banter is like one of my favorite parts about being in a studio, especially like a house Slater house is set up now, having that bullpen, like because you get those little like jokes and stuff against one another and like stuff like that. But yeah.
Yeah,
so,
you just talk crap to the person over there, and it's kind of just a back and forth.
Yeah, yeah, it's fun. But,
Yep. But Miss Slater, dog. So get you on the next episode. But other than that, I just wanted to say to anyone watching, we appreciate you guys, man. Like
a ton.
We just enjoy talking.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
About all like I want to talk more about tattoo techniques like we actually did on the previous episode a little bit.
Yeah,
I really
that was fun.
I enjoyed that a lot, kind of diving into because there's always something to learn from everyone.
100%.
So I'd love to talk more about that. We love conspiracy stuff and just overall, like, I mean, today we talked about kind of growth and what does rock bottom look like and kind of rebuilding the start of tattoo careers. I don't know. We just like talking and we like conversation and
for sure. Along with like everyone in the comments and everything, I've enjoyed those conversations, the messages. It's been really cool. And then we're going to dive into some of those questions you guys have had too. So
we are also going to start bringing on some guests here soon.
So if you know someone you'd like to see, or if you potentially like to be on, shoot us a message, let us know.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it'd be fun.
So we like friends. We like people. Like, comment, subscribe if you would, share with a friend. Hope you guys are enjoying the content. Like I said, we just like hanging out. So thanks again, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Yep. See you guys. Appreciate you all.
Peace out.